When it was better than and Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Comic Convo. This week we'll be talking about DC's cancellations of some of the New 52, as well as the books that I've been reading over the Christmas and New Year break. First up is the news that DC will cancel 6 of its books from the New 52 in April. These are Black Hawks, Hawk and Dove, Men of War, Mr. Terrific, OMAC and Static Shock. But these will be replaced with 6 new titles. Another Batman book, Batman Inc., Earth 2, World's Finest, Dial H, GI Combat and The Ravagers. The only one I'm vaguely interested in is the Batman Inc., mainly because it's Batman and it's written by Grant Morrison. None of those other titles really take my fancy, so I don't think I'll bother with them. They may have some interest out there. Probably, that's why DC are doing them. I haven't got much to say about the books that were cancelled, mainly because I wasn't reading any of them, which actually says quite a lot, I guess, to them being cancelled, as if not many people are reading them, that's why they're gone. It's funny how DC are sticking with the 52 titles. They cancelled 6 books, they bring 6 books back in to keep that number at 52. So they're obviously quite set on the 52 number. They have been for years now. I wonder how long that's going to stay around. Will they add 10, 20 more titles when they see sales increasing? If they're going to stick around with that number or just keep at that, kill books that aren't doing too well, bring in new blood, new titles. It's only a matter of time before they let on their game plan, so we'll just have to wait and see with that one. But anyway, that's enough of the news. We'll move on to my first review of this week. The first book of my Christmas backlog, I'm aware that issue 5 is now out, but it's Batman number 4, which is a beautiful cover there by Greg Capullo, written by Scott Snyder and art by Greg Capullo. This book has been one of the best of the New 52. I'm really enjoying it. From month to month it's getting pretty good. Interested to see where the story's going. We've got this new organisation that's in the background of Batman and Gotham City's history, and it's been plaguing the Wayne family for generations, and it's really ramping up. It's been said on a lot of other review sites that Scott Snyder apparently doesn't very much like Batman because he's putting him through some trials and tribulations in this series, and it's really interesting to read, and that's what you want in a series. You don't want it to just be typical ploddy Batman stuff. You want it to be taking in new directions and going in interesting places. The other thing to note is Greg Capullo's art, because most people would know him from Spawn and Haunt, but his Batman is phenomenal. And in this issue alone, there's some very interesting flashback scenes which aren't done in your typical fashion. You see a bit of background information. There's a city plan from above and some notes and some letters, and it's in a very creepy style actually. But the ending of this book, it really steps up again. The ending of issue 3 is of a similar tone, and you thought, well, how's Batman going to get out of this? It's done it again with this issue, and more so. Most of you are probably reading it. I think everyone in the world who's interested in comics or superhero comics is reading it, so you don't need me to tell you that it's good and that you should be reading it, because you already are. The second book on my review list this week is Volume 3 of Chew, the trade of Chew, the Just Desserts. I got this for Christmas and I've been enjoying Chew from the start, obviously. It's a really good, solid comic book because it takes real advantage of the medium. It's quite silly and fantastical, and you couldn't get away with some of the things in this book in other mediums, in other forms. For example, TV or film. They're quite ludicrous to think about, and they only really seriously work in a comic book. Best example of that would be the luchador chicken. As you can see, it's a Mexican wrestling chicken, and that very rarely would work in film or TV. It only works in the confines of a comic book in a way that you believe. The main reason that is the artwork by Rob Guillory. It's a really nice cartooning style. It's not superhero comics. He's been criticised for that, but I really like this style. It's very detailed, but like I said, cartoony. It's not too pretty looking. It's quite real, but still maintaining that look of illustration, cartoony, comic book feel. The main premise of Chew is that there's this cop called Tony Chew who is a cyberpath, which means that he can eat something and get its past from it. So if he eats an apple, he sees the orchard that it was grown from. But for other things, like human bodies, he can figure out how they were murdered, which obviously comes quite in handy for a cop. So that's all for this week. Please let me know what you're reading. Subscribe, comment, rate, all that jazz. And I'll see you next week with some more comic book news and reviews.